UCF is building a ton of things right now. A lot of Mission 12 construction projects are underway, including the stadium's massive Roth Tower expansion, the Hagel Football Gateway, McNamara Cove, and the infamous UCF Lazy River, as well as a new football operations center, the parking lot of which was actually completed this week. I got to park in that, taking some pictures right here. Progress is chugging along on all of these, apparently ahead of schedule in some places, and looking to all be ready about for next season. But what's next for UCF? UCF AD Athletic Director Terry Mahajer was recently on the Sons of UCF podcast discussing exactly that.
In addition to the current construction around the bounce house, what else might be in the works that fans can look
Well,
for
right now,
changes at UCF?
It's exciting. We started a master plan. We did a little bit of it here, very very small, but we're also working on the new master plan for the whole university.
Terry talked about the creation of a design plan for the school's future construction, some new plans for athletics construction, like he floated an idea for a soccer stadium. Very interesting. Moving the running track, and gave us some insight into the processes behind upgrading facilities around campus. How we recently changed our food concessions provider to Levy, a really huge sports concession company who provides nearly every massive sporting event you can think of, from Super Bowls to the Kentucky Derby. Around here, they do concessions for Camping World Stadium, the Kia Center, Wide World of Sports, and actually have 2 restaurants in Disney Springs. Said that decision came down to 2 parts. First being consolidating our old concession program, like we had one company for concessions on game days and another for student-athlete nutrition. And he said they're going to consolidate that into one company to provide both, as well as just their overall showing nationwide at events. Terry said he went all around and they were basically the best. He even claims that they're fronting us about $8.5 million for revamping food infrastructure around the athletics village. Really interesting little tidbit there. Another bit of progress Terry talks about is how UCF has hired design company DLR, a construction company that's done a lot of work around college campuses, sports venues. They've just done a ton of stuff. Interestingly, they're responsible for what's considered the best in the world facilities for a few specific projects he talks later about. So through all this talk about what could be happening in the future, what actually is UCF's future? Well, if you dig through the University Archive website deep enough, you can find this. The Campus Master Plan. 267 pages of just straight interesting stuff here. Plans and strategies for stuff all around campus. There's so much interesting stuff right here, like transportation maps, parking plans, look at this, road maps, design plans, infrastructure plans, housing plans. There's a really neat map if I can find it down here. Oh, that's based right here. This is a map of endangered species on campus for plants and animals. There's this super neat stuff down here. A ton of great stuff. I recommend you peruse it as much as you can. There's so much cool stuff. But for today, we're going to be focusing on things that Terry said and some things he didn't. Some new secret, or at least not secret, not really talked about projects on the horizon. And they're pretty much all on this map right here, Capital Improvements map. Now what that means is this is what they have designated as things in the next about 10 years that they are going to build or remodel, pretty much. Now, just a quick overview. Obviously, the key corresponds to the red letters. These yellow buildings are buildings that don't currently exist, so that would be brand new projects, brand new things on campus. And if it doesn't have a yellow, that just means pretty much you're going to remodel it. Now, first of all, you can see, obviously, the tower is numbered here on 7, because it's currently ongoing. We got McNamara Cove and the Hagel Football Gateway and the new offices. But then we see these. What are these? This right here, Terry talked about, is a brand new soccer stadium. So if you see the track and field, which was right here, is going to be moved into over here. Now, what this looks like now, obviously the track and field complex is right here, and this is undeveloped land right next to the softball field. And this practice field right here got moved to the other side. McNamara Cove goes right here. So the track and field stadium gets moved along with a soccer. Oh, hello. There we go. A soccer thing down here. So a brand new track and field complex, complete with new grandstands and another soccer field. And up here, the big one, a brand new soccer stadium. Now, we said DLR, the company we have signed with, created that brand new fancy soccer complex for Cretan, and it's ranked #1 in the world. And given our demographics, given our interests around Florida, I think we could really have a world-class soccer facility. This is where we play soccer right now, and frankly, I haven't heard of anybody really going to a soccer game. And if we get a soccer stadium that nice, if not nicer, we really could have the best soccer stadium in the world, for college at least. It would go right here, or at least that's the plan in the next 10 years. So that'd be really, really neat. Another thing up here, before I get into the other stuff down here, 35. If you see down 35, heavy hoo, 35, that is Intercept Orion Garage. So, intercept just means it was strategically placed to intercept the traffic that would be going down here and get them up here. So, that would be going right here, and they'd be paving this, and it'd just round out this. If you've ever been up here, there's a lot of parking up here for football days, and there's a good amount of tailgating. But that would be a new parking garage. Personally, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, we need new parking on campus. That's 100% obvious. Anybody knows that. However, as a game day garage, which in here it was primarily listed as one of the biggest benefits, I don't know. I'm not convinced. And the reason for that is tailgating. You know, you can't really tailgate in a parking garage. And our tailgating's fragmented enough as it is, between Memory Mall being only students and some over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here. There's no real one singular there's building down here that takes a shuttle route to over here for free parking. I can't remember for the life of me what it is. Some people tailgate over there. But my point being, tailgating needs one spot. It shouldn't ever be forced. There shouldn't be like, this is your one spot for alumni tailgating. But you'll see a lot of partner Big 12 teams have one big parking lot outside their stadium. And that is where you do all the tailgating. Now, I'm not particularly fond of having a ginormous paved parking lot, the entire circle around here like some Big 12 teams do, but like I said, if that's going to be a chunk of the parking, I don't know. Either way, parking is great. Obviously, they're going to pave all this, make this nice. You can see that right there for that. And down here, zoom out. We see additions to the sports center. This has been known, but this is the Wayne Dinch Sports Center, and is going to be entirely, completely redone, especially with the offices being moved over here with the football center. That's been something we've known for a while. It's going to be completely redone, and it should be really great. And apparently they're going to add an addition right here, whatever that is. Also, there's a lot right here, currently under construction. Actually got some pictures over there the other day. And up until this point, it seems like everybody's really thought it's just going to be a small, tiny parking lot. However, this says over here, 26, multi-purpose building. Whatever that means, but it's going to be something, which is really neat. No specific things were given for the stadium or Uh, Basketball Excellence Center. It just lists renovations. Number 6 was just them moving this field over there, and number 31 is just improvements to the road. Nothing very specific other than that. Obviously, there's another thing over here that we don't have. There is a competition level tennis court stadium right here. Obviously, we play at USTA. Our tennis team plays right over here. This year it was a massive advantage for us because we got to host, and this is where the national championship was played. Just over here, if it'll load, we got a UCF logo right here. You can just barely make it out. But that's not on campus. It's not particularly far, but it's still not. It can't be as good as something on campus, but that would go right here, just that complex, kind of one for one, I'd think, would go right here. That, and they'd completely pave this lot, as you can see, and extend it over here. And then this chunk right here would be a new track and field complex and a new soccer field. That's a pretty good chunk of stuff up here for the athletics. Other than that, there's not really any other renovations, but until we start getting into campus. Real quick, let me go over to Lake Claire. Lake Claire, the number 1 listed thing is they're going to completely redo the boathouse. They're going to make it into a real boathouse with probably triple the size and just about more amenities. Like I said, there's not particularly much specific, but still neat stuff. Biggest area around academic campus is this lot over here. Right now it's parking lot, a lot of game day parking goes here, a lot of tailgating, especially when we're pretty big. Obviously the shuttle drops off here. This is all pretty much going to be filled in with buildings. As you can see, we got number 9 and 10 here. Let's see what those are on the Research 2. Obviously this is Research 1 is over there. Research 2 would go right about here. And then 10, Workforce Entrepreneurship Resource Exchange. Whatever that means, that building would go right here. And of course, 13, Space Technology and Aerospace Research Star Laboratory. Interesting. Would go in this lot right here. Pretty much none of this parking would be there anymore. Oh, 17. What's 17? Research 3. Pretty much none of this parking would be here anymore. The parts that aren't building are going to be this nice, apparently, at least in the concept art, it's this nice Pegasus Star little courtyard. And very tiny little parking lot, probably for staff only. Go down here, we just got, for the most part, everything around here is just mild renovations to old buildings. Nothing too particularly of note. The Arbitorium greenhouse, they say they're going to completely gut and redo. To make it a living laboratory is the language that they used a lot. They really wanted to push that, which is pretty fun, pretty neat. Arbitorium, is the most underrated part of campus. We'll talk about it more, but there's so many trails. You know, there's a mountain bike trail out here. People don't even know that. I might have to do a whole video on that. We got some more info on the trails coming up a little later, but for now, let's talk about these new buildings. Right over here, number 11, we got Performance Immersive Experience and Entertainment Laboratory, Pixel. Interesting. Which is going to be a big building connecting the performing arts buildings over here next to the VAB, Visual Arts Building, and right in line with Knights Circle and a few other things. But that would go right here, chunking up pretty good, and it looks pretty neat. 15 over here, and this empty lot over here next to Colburn Hall. 15 is going to be academic building. Very descriptive, right? But some nondescript building, probably just the same as Trevor Colburn Hall, which is pretty much all professors' offices and office hour works. Is probably going to be the same thing right about here. Down here, 33, that would be the campus sign. Doesn't really come off well on the map, on Google Earth, but you can just barely see. They say they're going to redo that sign. And apparently, the idea is they're going to widen this entrance so that this median, as you can see in here, the median would be widened to out here. Let traffic experts go for that. What else we got? What else we got? The biggest one of my favorite things, I've always held that we got a triple on-campus housing, but which a little far off. But this is certainly a big start. We got 23, right? 28. Excuse me, right here would be. I think they call it campus center housing, which is a little strange to me. This lot right here, because this parking lot was just completely repaved this year, so maybe this is something much more down the line. But certainly this spot over here, right over here on this map, this spot over here is the UCF Creative School for Children. This was actually approved to be moved over here to 4. So this building right here would be tore down and moved over to 4. I'll show you 4 in a minute, but this would all be more housing, which would be pretty neat. Alongside over here in 27, get me fixed out. This lot would be cleared. There we go. This lot would be cleared of parking spaces and emptiness, and it would be turned into more housing. More housing, more housing, more housing. That's the best thing you got to do. So all of these parking lots would be paved. And the Creative School for Children would go right here. This is actually approved by the Board of Trustees, so that's 100% on lock. So seems like they're definitely 100% doing these. Number 34, of course, this upper lot right here, they're right next to the basketball courts. This upper lot, they're going to convert into a parking garage serving this side of Hercules and the new housing up here. Another reason for that is because RWC Park doesn't formally have its own parking. They have 173, I believe, I read somewhere, was the number of spots that are only for RWC parking. And if you've ever been out there, you just know you don't have your own parking. You're just going to walk. So that would be the idea. This entire lot would be no longer for housing only. This would be for the RWC Park. A lot of plans were discussed for the RWC Park, like just phases and phases of more, basically. Nothing really specific, but of course we got this giant dirt pile, very beautiful stuff, that would be converted to things. They said there was a lot of talk about getting up to average standard recommendations for baseball park. A lot of talk about getting up to average with softball fields and baseball fields, which we'd add like, I think the number was around like 18, which I have no idea where they're going to fit that many baseball fields in this, but that was their plan, and they said that's going to be addressed within the next thing. This giant dirt mound would be full. It was also that same averages was affected with the tennis courts, but they said, I guess the competition tennis courts up here would count for that too. But other than that, that's most of the renovations. Oh, yeah, that's most of the renovations over here. I can't forget this part. They're gonna add a water. Let me see. What water treatment plant, 37, and water treatment plant and recycling center right here in this empty lot, which should be pretty neat. More conservation on campus would be neat. And 38, what was 38? Storage facility. It's a storage shed. But this would be pretty good. And that's about all the new construction. There's one little last note I found. Actually, two while I remember it. They said, if you don't know, we got the challenge course, basically a ropes course on campus down here. They said that will likely be out of service within the next decade. They said its lifespan's up. But it will be replaced. Good news. It will be made new. So expect some renovations there. And the last thing they said is they are working with some trail connections. So bike and walking trails. If you ever heard of the West Orange Trail, find a part that I know. There's West Orange Trail. It's a massive success. It's about 30 miles. This solid thing right here goes way off screen. It's been a massive success for everywhere it goes. It followed old train tracks down from around here in Claremont all the way up to here to Apopka. It was a massive success for Orange County. And the school is working with the county. School is this little yellow box right here to get 2 trails connected and in line with Orange County's trail master plan. Another master plan, I know. I found this midway through doing it. But if you notice, we have 2 trails going through campus. The East Orange Trail and the Innovation Way / UCF Trail north and south. So Innovation Way is completed in this solid section down here and here. But it would be connected all the way up pretty much to campus now. I could not for the life of me really understand where it's going, but it's coming, and that would be neat. It would have a bike trail connected here and up here going this way for that's about 10-15 miles, and be really neat. And of course it would go down here and bike. If you know anything about West Orange Trail, if you don't, I'd recommend looking it up. It's really pretty, great for this area. Runs through a bunch of towns. This is the trail. It's been fantastic for the areas that it did. So I want to expand it, and it would just be a real good treat for UCF to have these trails pretty much connected to that. Connected to parks, connected to state parks. It would be really neat. Now for the big one, the bounce house. Everybody knows about the Roth Tower. Everybody knows about the Roth Tower project going on. Of course, we're expanding the existing tower from this. It's not that big. It's kind of small. To this really nice, really big thing right here. Of course, we're adding the wings right here and right here to be done in 2026 season, and a full redo of the things. Everybody knows about that. Of course, all this luxury suites, sky boxes. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty nice. The nice side right there. Everybody knows about that. But other than that, what's next? Of course, in recent years, we've seen new additions of lights, lighted video boards around here and around here. I forget, about 7 years ago, maybe now, we added the Student Athlete Leadership Center for education and stuff. A few years ago, we had this, which is the Nutrition Center for athletes. It's starting to come along, and I tell you what, once the tower is complete, a lot of narratives are going to change about the stadium, because it really is better than people give it credit for. Now, On the flip side, we gotta be realistic. It is true. We built this thing on the dirt cheap. I believe the quote from the president at the time was, "I couldn't believe we could build a stadium that for that little money." And I tell you what, for what it is and for what we put into it, it is pretty darn nice. It's a lot better than people give it credit for, and I tell you what, it's got some good things coming. But what's next? Well, first let's look at some old concept art. This one's from 2003 when the stadium was first built. The expansion was slated to be like this. Just a whole nother extra ring around the top. Obviously, that would see the view. That would be kind of like this. If you see this second level with the concrete, imagine just another concrete level and a whole nother level on top of that. That was what the original plan was, and honestly, it would not be too bad at all. But let me tell you that we're not looking to expand seating for quite a while. And the simple fact about that is we just don't sell out the stadium. When we start selling out the stadium, it'll happen. And like I said, as I always say, if we can get one big break, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we start winning again, we will sell out the stadium like that. And it will be necessary, but don't expect that anytime soon. Don't expect any seating expansions anytime soon. Like, this was proposed for a while. This was going to be the idea, but which would have been two little wings right here. This is off the table, and this is a article from 2021, Black and Gold Banneret. Before we were solidified on the tower expansion, we were actually going to add this. It was called the Launch Club. It would have replaced the ribbon. Excuse me. Would have replaced this ribbon signage right here, and it would have been pretty neat. I think it looks pretty good. A lot of people don't like it as much, but it would have been stadium clubs and coaches' offices. Some people didn't like it. They said, "Oh, it's not as out of place and it's kind of ugly." And the real reason for that is you got something really nice here, and then your stadium tower still looks like this, and it wouldn't have made sense. But that eventually evolved into, of course, what we have today in the oh shoot. Well, that evolved into what we have today in the, and of course, the McNamara Cove and the Hagel Family Football Gateway and the Taylor Clearing. So essentially, these coaches' offices turned into this, which, if we remember, is currently being built right here. And this will be the Lazy River, and this is that parking lot I said was complete. So all of the offices that are in here this is going to get gutted. All the offices are going to move into here, which is going to look like that. And of course the Lazy River and behind it. So basically that turned into this and that. So I tell you what, I think we got a good deal out of that. But what's next? Right now, unfortunately, there is no plans. Now, I'm sure the second the stadium tower gets completed, we're going to have some plans somewhere, because there's a few aspects in which this stadium really does need some help. But one of the ones that's been talked about a lot recently, this new plan for the Tampa Bay Sun women's soccer team over in Tampa was just released, and a lot of people were discussing in the UCF community how this roof design, which would be as a potential expansion to campus, like imagining these three sides having the roof, and this side relying on the shade of the tower. course, a lot of stadiums in Florida and Orlando have the roof design. Of course, we got to go to the Inter and Co Stadium for the Orlando City has, of course, nice roofs like that. Ours would mostly look like something like this, or can't forget over in Miami, Hard Rock Stadium. They spent $80 million renovating the stadium to add this roof right here. Oh, look at that. Tennis stadium set up for tennis. That's pretty neat. But ours would look something a lot more like the Inter and Co Stadium. Right there. If we were to do it. Now, I tell you what, I am very much not sold on the idea of a covering like this. Now, I see the vision. I like it. I'm picturing it in my mind, and it does have a lot of benefits. But let me tell you the benefits first. First of all, obvious one, number one is shade. Well, a lot of people are pretty bad with shade. It's bad for rain. What's the number one least desired seat in the stadium? Is somewhere probably around over here. Or over here, because, well, it's hot. You're not on. You don't have the shade from the tower. You're exposed pretty much. So what if you'd think it'd be great right here? Whenever there's rain, these seats always clear out and it looks real bad. Especially like during the space game this year when it was raining. You see that the play continues, and of course the camera faces this way, and the entire thing's empty because all the people are staying underneath in the suites area, which is right here. So a covering would prevent that from happening. It'd be a lot more comfy for fans. You'd probably get more people show up, although I'm not sure you actually would. Because if fans care to show up, they show up. If they don't, they're fair weather, and nothing will really get them in. But it's still a way to potentially get a lot more people in. The second major benefit is a lot of Orlando City fans will tell you it gets pretty darn loud in there, and it's not that. I mean, it's it's a pretty darn nice stadium, but it's not like the biggest thing. I don't know how many seats it is. Let's see. Orlando City Stadium capacity. 25,000. So UCF, the bounce house as it stands right now is about 45,000. So think not double, but around double in loudness. And if you see the loudness over here, it reflects, and the roof traps in a lot of noise. What's the loudest venues in the country? Well, they're NFL stadiums. It's the inside NFL stadiums. They're pretty loud. Kansas City doesn't count. I still don't believe that stat. If you've ever been inside Mercedes-Benz, it gets super, super loud because their sound doesn't have all of that to escape out to. And the bounce house already is a surprisingly loud stadium for its capacity, and putting in a roof around here to deflect the sound back in, especially right on the field, it would be really great. I've heard tell that some roof designs for stadiums in the past have been precisely designed to reflect sound directly on the field. Of course, Miami's infamous design, the cover makes it so that the visiting bench is in the sun during afternoon games. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that, but the reason I'm not particularly sold on it is I think by the time it would be created, there's a big opportunity that the expansion would be necessary. Now, I'm not saying we have the plus 20,000 seats of this, but I'm saying something like chopping this side off right about here, right about here, cutting from uh, cutting maybe just from the video board on, and from here up, cutting that off, and turning that into a full second deck. Ergo, like something like I'll just go there. Be quick, be quicker to go there, or something like Raymond James, or like any stadium with a second deck, and it would overhang a little bit more, and it would do just as good for the shade, for the premium seats, and it would do just as good for the sound deflecting in, because that's the biggest thing, is you have something in there to deflect the sound in. So, like I said, I don't see it happening, because it's been begged for 10 years, and they've made no progress or any inkling that they've ever wanted to actually do anything like that. And the reason is because it makes future expansion harder. But if you want covering, number one, come to more games. Number two, if you come to more games, we can add the second deck. I'm just imagining, because and the stadium would really start to come together around then. The noise would get a lot more trapped in, and it would be perfect. That would be my... Now, that is at least a decade away, minimum. But that would be my speculation and my reasoning as why I don't really think or desire the covering. So what is the most likely thing? No, it's not my expansion here. The most likely thing I think is going to happen is covering up over here. All of these small buildings over here, there are a lot of ways that you can cheaply cover them up and build them into this infrastructure. What I think the next most likely thing is stands, especially out here and over here, are going to get pulled out. They're going to maybe concrete it in, maybe not, at least make it into more permanent structures, and just a replacement of aluminum cheap old seats with real permanent things. Now, your thought there is, well, the bounce house is going to lose a bounce. And I say, yeah, I hate to tell you that, but that was always going to happen. It was just a matter of when. Back in the day, over in Tallahassee, FSU's stadium, if I can remember where it is, the Doak. It was not this beautiful structure it is now. In my opinion, the best looking stadium in the state. It was a tiny little thing, a lot like ours. And you know what they called it? They called it the Erector Set, which is also a pretty neat nickname, just like the Bounce House. And in my opinion, that the Bounce House's days are, at least the bounce aspect, we never got to get rid of that name. But the cheap metal exposed days are likely over. Aside from just the general renovations, like the $8 million the new catering company's given us to renovate all of these small buildings and bathrooms, I believe that filling in the stands that exist now are the most likely thing. Now, there's a lot of small things you can do. I have always been a very big proponent. I've been pushing this since the day I got here. If you're familiar, there's a lot of murals around the stadium, and people absolutely love them. Of course, this one right here, we got Space U one, we got the Nitro, and there's just a ton of them. That's not one of them. But there's a ton of them that people really love taking pictures with. Every visiting fan I've talked to says that's their favorite part of the stadium. It's my opinion that for something they could do on the dirt cheap, because painting walls is very cheap, at least compared to $100 million renovations, it's my opinion that should be something they do in the very recent future, is fill in every single wall under here with all of those murals. We have a lot of them over here because it's the main entrance, and that's where the most people are. But especially when you get over here, there's less of them. The far side doesn't have that many, as far as I can remember. And it's just not as plain. But there are hundreds and hundreds of walls under there that could be filled with these beautiful murals. And I tell you what, if you fill everything in there and make it look that great, that's a unique thing that nobody else has done. That no other stadium has that kind of stuff. It's unique. It's UCF, you know. You could make it a student contest, you know. Students in the art department get to do a contest and went out to do their murals or volunteer to paint the things, and it's just a touch that could be pushed out so hard that would elevate the experience that much more. That doesn't really cost much, and that can be done pretty quick and pretty easy as compared to, you know, tearing out stands and replacing them. Another thing I would like personally, that's at least, it's not cheap, but comparatively, I cannot for the life of me remember what year these were put in, but the brick circulars around here, these brick walls, they're great, they're fantastic. The only problem is this part up here. So if we could, if I can show you right here. Oh. Right here. Yeah, it's this gap right here. The brick looks great. It's really good. There we go. This might tell us what year it was. Oh well, but it's the biggest part of it right here that you see, and it just really, your eyes glaze past the brick and go straight to the ugly grandstands, and that's something that could be not easily done, but comparatively easily done, and it wouldn't really cause that much disruption, and it would just look 3 times as good, at least. Another thing I would like, it's really bad now, it doesn't seem much better. Oh, here's a good example of the brick. Looks great, nothing. And then you just see grandstands. Another thing, I'd like to see the bottom of the tower filled in, and that would probably be done with the brick here. But like I said, those are all just my opinion, my speculation. I may one day do a video of, if I had $600 million to build a new stadium, what would I do? But that's not for today. Like I said, the most likely renovation for the stadium next would be concessions and starting to replace old sheet metal grandstands with some newer stuff. And now for some fun parts. Just a bunch of wish list items that I personally want that are not at all planned. Obviously, we're going off of this map right here, and the stuff, we're just going to assume that every change in here gets built exactly how it is. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but just a few things that would be really nice to have. First of all, let me just go on a little rant. The NCAA has 24 sports. The average university that does NCAA sports sponsors about 18 to 20 of them. How many do you think we sponsor? Well, obviously football, you know, basketball, baseball, softball. Well, in total, we sponsor 8. 8 out of 24, which is just brutal. There's a few other sports, non-NCAA sports that we sponsor, like cheerleading, which we've won national championships in. However, grand scheme of things, the NCAA sports matter more, at least, and make us more money, get us more attention. So let me go on a list of NCAA sports we don't sponsor. Men's cross country. We don't have a men's team. We have a women's team, and from my understanding, they do very well. Upgrading their facilities would do them very good. Men's track and field, same thing. Men or women's field hockey, don't have any of those. Men's volleyball, we do have the women's volleyball team inside the venue, but we don't have a men's team. That's one less sport. Men or women's water polo. Before I move on, let me say men or women's swimming and diving. That's right, we don't even have a swim or dive team. How are you a Florida school and don't have a swim or dive team? I tell you what, we have facilities. Part of my wish list is to get better ones. But did you know there's not a single diving board on campus? No, not even in the not even in the leisure pool. It's just crazy to me. Florida school without a swim team. Water polo, bowling, fencing. We have a fencing team, but they're a club team. Men and women's gymnastics. We don't have a gymnastics team. In fact, the only technical gymnasium is in here, and I bet you didn't even know that was in there, unless you've been in here. Fun fact, when I was in 4th grade, I had a chess tournament in there. One of the renovations on the master plan is to completely gut that and turn it into offices. So that's one less thing we got there, and we don't even do anything with it. Men and women's ice hockey. We have a club team. They meet somewhere over here. I don't even know. Rifle, skiing. Now, I'll give them a pass on not having a ski team. But men and women's swimming and diving, wrestling, men and women's beach volleyball, men and women's lacrosse. How are we going to let UF win a Big 12 championship in lacrosse? And we don't even have a lacrosse team. And men and women's individual tennis, which I guess is different from spring tennis. So that is, what is that? 16 teams, some men and women's that we don't sponsor for NCAA. We still yet to have an NCAA national championship. Yes, 2017 counts, but not to anybody else. And that's why. That's a lot of the reason why, is we only have 8 teams. And a lot of my ideas for building the future are building stuff like that. Obviously, we're redoing the entire track and field facility. So hopefully in that, we get a men's cross-country team, a men's track and field team, right? I believe that's pretty standard right there, right? Let's take that and say, yay! Part of that, we get this facility renovated. We build this facility, and I'd make that another stadium. And I'd convert this existing practice field into, we need a practice field somewhere. I don't know, figure it out. This is wish list stuff. We would convert this or someplace around here, maybe over here, sizing's a little funny, into a competition pool, swim, and dive facility. So a lap pool, a dive facility, something like indoor would be even nicer, but we live in Florida, so that's not going to happen. Something like this. Like I showed earlier, we have the infrastructure down here at the RWC, but honestly, that's not enough. I don't even think there's stands in there for anything. But imagine a soccer stadium, a proper soccer stadium right here. And maybe right here in this chunk, we have a fully fledged swim and dive facility. That would be just fantastic for us. Another big thing. Well, first of all, let me say that would give us the opportunities for men and women's swim and dive teams, and men and women's water polo teams. There we go. Let me see. We're already at New NCAA teams: men's cross country, men's track and field. That's 2. I'll talk about that in a minute. Men's water polo. That's 3, and men and women's swimming and diving. That's 4. That's 4 new NCAA sports that we weren't in because we just don't have the facilities. Another one, this may actually end up being the most important, is we need a gym, like a proper gymnasium. You could technically count the venue as one, but no, not really. We have the arena. That's for basketball and events. We need a gymnasium for stuff like for stuff like wrestling, fencing, gymnastics, anything like that. Now you start to look, and we start to say, "Oh, we're kind of running out of space," without encroaching on this land around here that's pretty much not to be touched. But it was my understanding that this land was not to be touched either. So maybe it's not as loose as some people make it out to be. But imagine a gymnasium for that kind of stuff. Maybe up here in this part, and we start rounding out the athletics village to be even bigger. That would be a huge benefit. So that would field teams like men and women's gymnastics. That's 1. Fencing. That's 2. Men's volleyball. Well, we could just add that now, but we'll add that in that. Wrestling. And while we're at it, add men and women's individual tennis, because we're building the tennis center over here. So now we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 new NCAA teams possible with the facilities that aren't done right now. So that would take us from fielding 8 NCAA teams to 18, which is really, really nice. And that's just building 2 things. A gymnasium, possibly up here, and a swim facility over here. And I tell you what, perfect world, what I'd do, gut the venue, just let it be. Maybe even move this parking garage, because we're building this one anyway. Just get rid of it. And put a gym right here, fully kitted out gym. Put a lot of money into it. Demolish, and make a full-sized gym there. That may be pretty great. Although that's, again, me just thinking. Another wish list item. Let's see what else we got. Oh, an indoor track and field facility. Whew, that would be... with them relocating this, I don't see that coming in for a while. And we're starting again with the issue of size. I see a few possible places for it up here. Actually, these parcels up here look pretty perfectly sized for a indoor track and field facility. Maybe this parcel over here right next to the outdoor one would be nice. But indoor track and field facility, that could also double as a lot. It could really do a lot of stuff. Yeah. We have the soccer stadium being built, so you know what? While we're at it, let's just add men and women's lacrosse as a possible team, field hockey as a possible team, and one wish list item: add a beach volleyball court somewhere over here to the tennis court right here. Look at that. Now we got men and women's beach volleyball. And now the only teams that we don't have facilities for are bowling, which you could easily go off campus and go to a bowling center. I think that's what we do now for a club. Ice hockey. We are in Florida. Now, granted, let's see. Granted, we have just won a second Stanley Cup along with Tampa Bay, but we still are in Florida. And then rifle and skiing. Rifle, I don't think you'd really do that on campus in the Big 25. And skiing, well, hate to tell you, we're in Florida. but all we have to do to add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 teams is add a gym, add a sand volleyball court, and add the pool. There you go. 12 more teams. And that is, now granted, a lot of these teams take away money, but there's a lot of opportunity to make money in that too. I am sure there is someone in the state of Florida that would be willing to front us a couple $1 million to build a competition pool with their name on it. The gym, that's probably the most expensive item there, but like I said, it's not the hardest things to do, but it's possible. It's possible. All right, on to few fun stuff, few fun suggestions. Let me zoom out on this. Pretty much every other school in the state has a dedicated golf course for their school. And I'll tell you what, we do have a men and women's golf team. And being in Central Florida, the amount of golf courses around here at the highest level are enormous. So there really shouldn't be that much of a reason why we don't have national level golf programs at the school. And I tell you what, you go right about over here. This is about 2 miles off campus. And these plots of lands. Oh, hello, why is my taskbar over there? Any of these plots of lands to the east, there's stuff to the south, there's forest. You can't, I would say do it here, but this is all private, not private, protected lands that, frankly, I don't want messed with, but this is a river that you definitely can't touch, but I don't know, something over here, a golf course just for the school, you make a lot of money. Number one, you'd make a lot of money selling golf courses, and I'm sure rich alumni, that's good source of money there. Every other school in the state has a golf course for their school. I don't see why we can't. Maybe not this way, but definitely this way. There's a lot of opportunity for it. Let's see what else we got. Oh, concert hall. We have a theater on campus. Well, if I can remember. Dang, there it is. Yeah, we have a theater over here, the Black Box Theater over here. I went to a show there once for a class. It's really my understanding, we don't really have a concert venue theater. I know we have the rehearsal hall that some people have seen some stuff with, and every year they play orchestra set on here in front of the reflecting pond, but there's no real fine arts performance venue. So something like that would be great. Maybe over here with all the performance stuff on the outside of campus, maybe in a lot like this seems pretty perfectly sized for it, and there's not really any plans for it over here. And of course, it's right next to that, so that'd be even nicer. But something like a concert hall performance venue would be very great. Let's see. This is a big one. Now, I have no idea how you go about doing this, but in the past 10 years, they've tried to build up the school's medical program, very big. Of course, we're building the hospital over in Lake Nona, but to be honest, we're about 100 years behind on the other schools in the state, and one dainty little hospital in Lake Nona is not really going to make up and increase your standing by that much. What we really need, and what would be really nice, is somewhere down in Research Park. Imagine a teaching hospital in Research Park. That would be something so good for the program on campus. That's one of the problems with Lake Nona is that's great if you have a. It's great to build college hospitals. I mean, I think there's a UF Health right next to the Lake Nona UCF thing, so it really increases your spread and kind of dominance. It's like a display of dominance, really. But it's one thing if you can spread out, but what we really need is something center on campus or around campus to really lock in the program cultured to UCF. Another one, let's see, what do we got? Oh, a law school. UCF does not have a law school. I don't know, I just figure that's pretty cool. Like I said, I have no idea how hard it is to build a law school and a law program, and I'm sure there's a reason we haven't done it. I'm sure it's extraordinarily difficult, but hey, come on, we're growing, man. We have 80,000 kids, we can have a law school. This one's pretty close to me, a pilot program. We have an airport in between two UCF campuses. We have, no, that's not it. I apologize. I have only driven past UCF downtown a few times, so I'm not exactly familiar with where it is. There it is. Yeah, we have this great downtown campus. We have look at that. I really got to learn more about downtown. We have all this great downtown Orlando, and then main campus is over here. And if you notice, there's something in there's Full Sail. There's something we passed in the middle of that, Orlando Executive. A lot of people drive by it every day. Obviously, 408 ends on campus, and we have this here. Imagine a UCF flight school. There's about 3 different flight schools that I know of in Orlando Executive, but imagine, I don't know, something over here. We build, I don't know, maybe by the Expressway Authority or something over here. Imagine a UCF flight school at Orlando Executive. I think that would be very popular. Obviously, any Floridian college kid knows about the success or how big Embry-Riddle Academy. And I tell you what, I actually personally know a few people at Riddle right now. It's a beautiful campus, great campus. I tell you what, if you want to compete and have that just few more students than that would go to Embry-Riddle that could have gone to UCF because they're in the area or whatever, but UCF doesn't have a pilot program, so that could be a big boon. That would cause some drama with Riddle, but that could be a really great thing for UCF. So, what did I say? On-campus hospital, a law school, a flight school. That's pretty much my ideas there. Now for some really fun ones, some really silly ones. And hear me out. Nuclear reactor. I know that sounds crazy, and that's like, we have a reactor in Orlando somewhere. There it is. Stanton Energy Center. Look at that. We have a reactor that I can see sometimes from the parking garage over where I used to live. Look at that. I used to park right there in that garage. Here, actually, let me. That room right there used to be my room. I couldn't see it from my room, but you can see it from the parking garage. All right, hear me out. This one may be like a big waste, but engineering school, right? We don't have a nuclear engineering program. We could have a nuclear engineering program. Imagine something. We have lakes and rivers. I don't think we'd be able to use them. Actually, thinking about it right now, but imagine something like the chilled water plant, or all these Flagler Hall, Hercules kind of areas. Imagine something right here, a nuclear plant. I personally know a guy who went to Texas A&M just because they had the biggest nuclear plant. All right. What is it? What is it? Oh shoot! So somebody posted a picture. There it is, right there. The university nuclear reactors. Dang. Mizzou's is massive. Texas A&M's not that big. Either way, it would be really cool if we had that. I know, well, I know a little bit about nuclear reactors, but I know nothing about the legal litigation that you'd have to do, but like I said, that'd be really cool. All right, even more fun stuff. Hear me out. This slot right here, right connected to the leisure pool. Hear me out. Water park. Ooh, that's pretty big, right? We're in Florida. We get the upper east United States to Florida to UCF pipeline's pretty darn big. And imagine even more, we had a water park. Now, of course, we're getting a lazy river, but no students getting allowed to get in that. So the amount of stupid marketing you can get with just like 3 or 4 water slides right here would be like insane. It'd be crazy. All right, and that leads me on to maybe the craziest one of them all. Actually, I'll save that for last. This one's personal to me because I work on this kind of stuff. We have a high ropes course here. I have never once seen it open. And of course, we talked about earlier, it's getting end of life is pretty soon. A completely new one over here would be really cool. Maybe a whole ropes course would be cool. Imagine zip lines over Lake Christine, right? That would be just a really unique, cool amenity. While we're at it, let's make WUCF actually a thing again. And here's the big one. The silly, fun, awesome one that we should totally do. On-campus roller coaster. I know that's crazy. Technically, we already kind of have one in the engineering building. We got Space Mountain's. We got, you can't see it through here, but Space Mountain's car is right there. Imagine the out-of-state advertising you can do. Well, we already do Live and the World Vacations. We already big push the Disney connection. We already big push the Universal connection. Imagine a roller coaster on campus. It would be crazy. Student-only roller coaster. I'm a big roller coaster nerd, if you can't tell. I may just design one in like Planet Coaster and just theorize where to put it, man, because that would be the funniest thing ever. You hear about campuses giving away free ice cream. Yeah, we got a roller coaster, buddy. But it's a little funny. That's not going to happen, but it's funny to think about, right? Now, of all the things that I just talked about in this wish list, I have one thing that stands above all else, and I'll have an entire video about that coming soon. And personally, I think it should go right here or right here, anywhere in this area. The more closer to the stadium, and especially in the athletics village, the better. We need a museum, a sports museum, a Hall of Fame. Let me show you UCF's Hall of Fame. Any day now. There we go. Okay, so we're just gonna get some bad stuff. The point being, we don't have a Hall of Fame. It's my understanding that we haven't seen some of these trophies that we've won over the years and anything since the day we were presented them. Now, all of these trophies are currently locked in the offices around here, in this building right here, and a few are in this building right here. That there are stuff we haven't. We need bare minimum a trophy case somewhere. Like it is. I cannot. I'm gonna leave this for the video, but I cannot overstate how amazingly important it is for the culture, for the legacy of UCF, to build a museum and Hall of Fame. Well, we'll leave that for that video, but for now, there's a lot of projects going on, a lot of projects that could be going on, and a lot of projects that will go on. I know this video is long, but thank you for watching it anyway. And of course, as always, go Knights, charge on.